Good evening. How is everybody doing? It is the Press Row Hangout PS4 Special Edition MLB The Show Initial Impressions. What's happening, everybody? Rich Grisham here. All-star lineup. Go through it, moving from left to right on your Google Hangout. Up first, the man, the myth, the legend from Polygon, Owen Good, wearing the Spaceman Lee jersey. Owen, how are you, my friend?
Just fine, Rich. Thanks for having me aboard tonight.
Good to see you. Up next, Mr. Bryan Wiedey from Pastapadre. How are you, sir?
I don't think I've talked this much in a long time between streams and our talks on Skype and everything over the last 2 days. I need to give my throat a rest here pretty soon.
Well, that's probably not what you should be doing at the start of an hour-long show, but
yeah,
we'll try to help you out. And of course, we have TJ Lauerman, the man who somehow struck me out 16 times and made a compilation YouTube video to commemorate the feat. How are you, TJ? It's good to see you.
Doing good, feeling like a winner today, Rich.
And I'm Rich Grisham. And hey, I was thinking today, it's amazing what we can do these days in 2014. Since the launch of the show, we've had multiple streams, we've had live Twitch conversations, we're now starting some wall-to-wall coverage. We got the Hangout here tonight. We're going to have an audio Press Row podcast come out Friday with segments of this show and some other interviews. We're going to have our full review roundtable come out next week. It's really, it's just kind of amazing the kind of coverage that we can collectively have as these games come out. And, between, again, the streaming and the live shows and stuff, it's awesome. So we are going to just get right into it. PS4, MLB 14, the show, the game that so many people have been waiting for. And, we waited past the initial sort of release date. It's now May. It's finally here. And let's just go around the table and start right at the beginning. Owen Good, just tell us, what were your initial impressions once you put in MLB The Show into your PS4? What did you think?
I mean, we expected that it was going to be basically a better-looking version of its, sibling on the PS3, and that's what we got. So that's good and bad, to use a cliche, in a couple of ways. The way it's good is that they made a feature-complete version for both consoles. It didn't shortchange either constituency, and that's good. What's bad is, anybody who bought this thinking it was going to be a recognizably distinct game, first of all, I think they probably had unreasonable expectations going out about 2 months. But secondly, you're also you're going to be inheriting the same problems I think that you saw, or the same deficiencies that people have been complaining about with PS3 The Show. All of this is to say, I mean, it's like when this is the defining quality, which is basically it's a better looking PS3 show, then really you can only go downhill, and so everything you have to say about it sounds negative. It is not. It's still a very solid game, and as I've said before, on Press Row Podcast, to you guys, elsewhere in my review on Polygon, I think it's the game that did the most to distinguish itself, and this is overall, from the MLB 12 to MLB 13. Oh, excuse me, MLB 13 to MLB 14. The thing is, it's not something that I think people who have both a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4, which probably is a minority of users, I don't think they should feel compelled to run right out and get it. It's a better looking game, and that's about it. And the online deficiencies are especially disappointing. And we'll go into this later, and I'll turn it over to others now. But now that we've finally gone through, this is the last game that's going to sort of launch on both consoles and straddle the generations. I'm a little disappointed that this is what next generation sports gaming means, is a lot of subtle differences and nothing that is truly breakthrough. It's not to say that the franchise itself is unimproved. It's not to say that this year's game is it's eminently better than last year's, but there's nothing profound about it.
Interesting. Bryan Wiedey, your initial impressions once you popped the game in and started playing.
Yeah, I think it's important, like Owen said, for us to specify that we're all coming having played some version of MLB 14, the show, already. Not everybody out there. There's going to be plenty of people who buy the PS4 version who waited or just didn't have those opportunities before. So For them, it can be a brand new game, a brand new experience. For us, it's not. So we tend to, again, latch onto here are the differences between the two. Here's what's better. Here's what's worse. And so it ends up being, again, Owen summed it up. It's a better version, better looking visually than the PS3 version. It's certainly exceptional in that regard. For weeks, I've been saying I'm not sure how much just improving visuals makes the game more enjoyable for me. And I think that held true. It's the same game, essentially. I don't feel like I'm enjoying it more than I did on the PS3 necessarily. And then you also have the added loading times that are really discouraging, and so it's better looking, but the trade-off is longer loading times. And I'd almost rather have the PS3 version because of that. Now, I would still rather play on the PS4. And it's an awesome game for any real baseball fans out there, no matter what console they have it on. But it's not, it's not jump off the page. It didn't get, I don't think any of us like really excited, because again, we have that experience already with the game, and it didn't change all that much from earlier.
TJ Lauerman, we'll talk about your sojourn to actually start playing the game a little later in the show. But once the game is in, once you're loaded, once you started actually playing, give me your initial impressions.
As someone who didn't play MLB 14 on the PS3, I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised. Obviously, since I didn't play the PS3 version, and I've only played the PS Vita version so far this year, it was a big step up from that, not only graphically, but finally being able to actually have control of my pitches using a real thumbstick and no longer using the little nubbin thing on there. But yeah, these loading times were absolutely atrocious. Normally, when I'll stream a game of Madden or something, I will do something in the game, look over at the chat, see what's going on, and then get a delay of game penalty. This game is, I go to do something, and then I look over at the chat, then I look back at the game, then I look back at the chat, and then I just go, is this really taking this long? Yeah, that's, as of right now, that's the main thing. Getting in the game feels really good. I'm liking the new graphics for the next gen and everything, but those loading times are really killer right now.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about. It's almost like there's two discussions. There's the discussion of when you're actually playing the game, and then there's the discussion of everything around it. And there are definitely issues in a lot of the places around it. But the one thing that stuck with me today, I played several games last night. Played some online games, or played an online game. Played some of my what I sort of feel is my patented way to play my season now, which is the player lock for the first 6 or 7 innings, and then play the rest of the game as the full team from like the 7th or 8th inning on. The controls are the one thing that stands out to me that feels better on the PS4 than on the Vita and the PS3. Maybe it's just because Bryan Wiedey actually told me how to field last night. That could have a lot to do with it.
I fixed you.
You did. But the controls to me feel more solid. And in a game like baseball, that extra little bit of control you have on the mound or at the plate, and certainly in the field, is the only real sort of gameplay difference that I've noticed. And it could be just me, right? And maybe it's just the fact that the DualShock controller is a better controller. But whatever it is, the combination, I just feel like I have a little more. I just feel like I'm controlling the action a little more. That's the sort of the one gameplay impression that sticks out to me. And I guess yes, it looks really good in places. It looks really bizarre in places. Oh, and the tweet that you had about looking in the mind of a pitcher tonight really sort of threw me for a loop.
Well, no, that was a joke. I know. Boom, with a close-up, and it tore through the guy's face.
But you actually saw the back of his teeth. That was. Well,
I mean, it's intriguing that they go into that level of detail. Right. I don't know why they would want to render somebody's teeth to that degree. Maybe if you're going to knock them out of somebody's head, but.
But it definitely, as we've heard about, goes into the uncanny valley too. Like when you get to this level of visual fidelity, there's moments when you kind of do a double or a triple take, and there's a lot of little moments you can tell where. They just didn't quite finish it. Like, at the end of an inning, sometimes the players will get stuck in their motion like that. So there's a lot of the little stuff. But overall, I'm maybe it's because I had lowered my expectations as we got closer to launch. but I'm definitely happier with it, gameplay, just playing the game, than I kind of thought I would be. And again, it's the whole way that I'm playing the game that I think that is really going to work well for me. So let's kind of go back around the horn. That's sort of my initial impression, and my happy surprise was how I felt like it controls a little better, more solid. TJ, any sort of little surprise, a happy surprise as you've been playing it the last day or two?
The main thing I would probably say is I was able to play 3 games online with no real issues. Though, if you're going to play someone online, I highly recommend being on Skype with them.
Yes.
So that if something weird happens, you can ask them what they're seeing.
Yes.
Because I was terrified a bunch of times, and we realized it was I hit A through a cutscene that someone else was still watching. But on my side, it was just the ball was frozen in place and nothing was happening. And we got really scared a couple times.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk through some of the online things that we've seen. Online is definitely a discussion I want to have. Bryan, Wiedey, any sort of surprises, happy surprises, something that you weren't expecting that just kind of like made you go, hey, that's kind of cool?
The first was telling you something that fixed your fielding.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we had this discussion during our games last night, which TJ has up on his YouTube page.
Yes.
A lot of good information in there, and we talked about things like how, for us, we don't even know where all the options are. We don't even know how everything works, and we cover these games every day. And so when I can tell you something, then you're like, oh, and it clicks. It's like it makes me think about all the people out there who don't have that level of access or all that knowledge built up already, whether it's their first year playing or they play every year. It can still be that way. The other thing was I was messing around with the replay, and I hit left and right on the D-pad, and I still haven't checked to see if this is a bug or supposed to be happening, but it changed the lighting in the stadium. You could change it. There were like 10 different lighting options, which is pretty nifty for putting together highlights or screenshots. So that was just kind of something cool I stumbled on that I had no idea existed. If it's supposed to exist, I don't know.
Owen, good. Any happy surprises, little things, subtle moments, or big things that kind of surprised you or stuck out to you?
No big moments. I think it's no secret that I go through this mostly as a pitcher, but it would be subtle things like I think that I'm a little more aware of the visual surroundings when I pitch, and it's just I'm noticing, for example, a lot more bad swings when I really get a hitter to do something he doesn't want to do, and I'm noticing them in, I think, more correct circumstances. I think we've all seen that kind of feeble, wave at an inside pitch.
Or I've been the guy feebly waving at the inside pitch.
True, but like it's something now that it's very situational. You're really only going to see that with 2 strikes, I think. And bear in mind, I've gone about 2 months through Road to the Show on this so far, and that's that's what I'm observing mostly. So it's like 2 strikes, a guy's trying to protect the plate, and you really make him do something he doesn't want to do. The other thing too is like within that, I'm noticing the facial reactions of the players more, grimacing in mid swing. You see it a little more on the instant replays. It's just, and these are all great things, but they're just a little too. Again, and Bryan, going back to your point, there were a lot of people who did hold out to go, okay, I've got both consoles, I've got budget for one game, what am I going to wait for? I'll buy it on the PS4. And they'll be happy because they've got a better looking version of something we've already judged to be a good game. So a lot of my criticism comes from comparing this game to the PS3 game. But again, there are subtle refinements, and I won't completely thread jack this. I'll come back with some other complaints later because that's all I do is complain. But there are virtues to this. But again, the overall strengths of the game are in things that you see across the PS3, the PS Vita version, player lock, quick counts. If you're a fan of that, TJ, I have no problem with you being a fan of that. If that's your bag, that's great. Dynamic difficulty, we should get to that too. It's a great asset, but the problem is it's not portable. And if you're playing on your PS4 and your Vita, you could have like a super powered Road to the Show guy playing against a lower difficulty, or you're faced with the obligation to play a bunch of one-off games just to boost up your hitting or your pitching skill. Those sorts of things. But on the whole, again, it's still a very solid package. And there are things to discover in PS4, and I think it's just one of these things. Sports video games take much longer than even a week after release to really get to understand them and know what they bring to the table.
Absolutely, and it's those moments and those little moments of discovery, and the show, you can tell it's so packed full of stuff that, like exactly what you said, Owen, there are 2 or 3 months from now we're going to find little things. One little thing that I thought that was really cool too, and this happened live during the stream last night. At one point, I think TJ and I were playing, or it might have been when I was playing a season game, I don't remember, but when you hit the big Madden timeout button on the PS4, what has driven me crazy for years at the show is, like, I just want to have a button where I can see the lineup and see who I'm going to be facing, whether they're a lefty or a righty. And for years, you'd have to click 2 or 3 buttons and figure out where to go. Now, when you hit the big, and I sound silly when I say it, but the big Madden timeout button, you get the lineup right there on the screen, so you can figure out, okay, do I want to warm up a lefty or a righty? Like, how do I want to do it? Just that little nuance significantly improves the gameplay for me, because that's such a crucial part of playing baseball, especially in the later innings of the game. So little things like that. So that was also something else.
I got a quick question for Owen, real quick.
Go for it.
Since you've been pitching the most of this game, have you noticed, even on your accelerated dynamic difficulty, that the umpire's been a little bit more wishy-washy about the corners of the sides of the plate? I feel like I've been throwing a lot more strikes that are a little bit off, or balls that are a little bit more on than in the past.
Today, I pitched about 3 games today. I'm coming up to the All-Star break of my second season, and I have had at least 9 pitches that were wholly within the strike zone on the edge that were called balls.
Yeah. I remember it was kind of like that last year, but I feel like it's been a lot more exaggerated this year.
I'm not sure who's to say. I mean, this is something that would take a long time to really judge. As I mentioned on our podcast last week, I felt like when I came into my second season after I had my minor league season, and then I was promoted to major leagues midway through, it immediately made things super hard on me because I had such a successful first season, and even the difficulty I was pitching at where I'd had success before, now is like super hard because it was really trying to regress me to the mean. And I feel like I have reset that some because I went, I was on a flight. I went to Texas last week. I took my Vita with me, played a bunch of games on that, and I was playing at this lower dynamic difficulty setting. And so, I had just a fantastic beginning of the season. And then I get back here and I get the PS4 version, and I got to start my dynamic difficulty all over again, and I have an even more fantastic June. So I think I may have thwarted that, and now I'm really seeing it. Like, I was getting cuffed around really hard in my last start, and I am on the PS4 up to, I'm at Veteran Plus, and my progression is like 3 pluses. And it's giving me a workout. So, I think this thing's got some juice going on in the background, but that's long been a sports gamer suspicion, if not a crutch, this is the reason I'm bad at it, it's because the game's screwing me. Who's to say?
All right, so now is the time when, in this corner, we have Pastapadre, and in this corner, we have That Sports Gamer. Gentlemen, quick counts. TJ Lauerman, why are they amazing?
I like it mainly because you have to be paying that much more attention to the game. Especially last night, we noticed in the stream a couple times, someone would throw a curveball over the middle of the plate, we'd take and be like, oh, right, strike 2. I wasn't paying attention, had a brain fart, you know what, I deserved that strikeout. Some people say it makes the game faster, some people say it doesn't make the game faster. I feel it goes a little bit quicker, but I just like the idea of being pushed to be more precise with your pitches and better with your hitting every pitch. So I feel like if I play a bunch of quick count games, I'm going to be that much better going into a full game because I'll have a better eye of what's going to be in the strike zone and what to take and what not to take. That's just my personal opinion.
Bryan Wiedey, why are quick counts terrible?
Yeah, I think it's almost the opposite, TJ. So I'm not here to argue that no one should use quick counts. Like if you like them, that's great.
Yeah, that's
it is great, isn't it?
Why don't they work for you? Like why do you dislike them?
So I have a list of notes here. I'm gonna roll through them. You ready?
It's a professional, TJ.
Okay.
All right, gun to a knife fight.
So you're sacrificing a lot, but I don't feel it saves enough time. In my tests, it's only been maybe 10 to 15% faster. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's obviously going to vary. Some people run through presentation. Some people, it depends really on how you play. But to me, what you're sacrificing isn't worth what you're saving. Okay, and that's just a personal feeling on that. I think there are too many 2-strike counts you come up to when batting. I think there are too many 3-ball counts you start with as a pitcher, and that forces you into situations where like for TJ, he likes that. He wants that pressure on him to keep him sharp. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing because you don't have any room for error when you get into those situations. You lose the context around each at bat. So it becomes a lot more difficult to strategize. When you go up there and you've got a 3-2 count, you're really kind of just swinging blindly. There are individual situations you lose. So say you get to a situation where you'd want to steal early on in a count, but you come up and it's a 3-2 count, or you're in a situation where you need to sacrifice and you come up and your guy already has 2 strikes. So there's a number of those where you're losing the ability to manage the way you'd want to otherwise. It's also frustrating, I think, to get your best player up to bat, take one swing, and then you don't see him again for a few innings. I mean, I remember one of the first quick count games I had. It was I had Robinson Cano coming up. I'm like, all right, Cano. I take one swing and he goes down. I'm like, oh man, this is depressing. You just don't feel like you're getting the full opportunity there. And then see, TJ argued otherwise, but to me, I think it teaches bad habits. I think it teaches novices to swing on the first pitch, essentially, which is what you try to get them away from, because you come up in situations so many times where you pretty much have to swing or you pretty much have to throw a strike. And so I think it's actually teaching novices bad habits. It might not for TJ as someone who's experienced, but if this is a way people try to learn the show, they're going to get even worse at swinging at first pitches. So that's my run through. But again, if you feel saving that time is whatever time it may be is worth it, awesome. But to me, I just don't think what you're sacrificing is worth the actual time that you end up saving.
All right,
I think you're right. Maybe it is. I am just such a high-level player that it's only working to make me better. Mm-hmm. That must be it.
All right, so Owen, you heard the argument from TJ in the positive, Bryan in the negative. Where do you fall on quick counts?
Well, I think my question is, Bryan, why the hell are you sacrificing? Didn't you read Moneyball? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of I see the points of both, and I'm not trying to be wishy-washy about it, but it is kind of a have it your way. I like it from the standpoint of, I mean, let's look on it again. Let's take it from the opposite end. I'm again more of a pitcher. I am, my road to the show guy, for example, he's in July. He's got 10 walks. That's it so far, because it's so easy to pitch into the strike zone and to pitch to contact in this game. And quick counts, if it doesn't shorten up the time you take playing a game, it can enforce a little more realism on your control, on pitching around a batter, on someone else working walks, if not you working a walk. I do wonder. I mean, how many of you guys are playing as hitters in Road to the Show? Where correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have quick counts available in Road to the Show, right? It's not there.
I don't know if it's available. I'm not playing it in my Road to the Show, but I'm also
I don't see any option for it.
Let me tell you a little of the irony there, Owen. Is that so? In our game last night that TJ and I played, it went over an hour, and it was a quick counts game.
Yeah.
And to me, what I noticed is, if you're playing the right way, and you're not just hacking, and you're not just throwing right down the middle, you're going to actually end up what, Rich?
I'm laughing because that's me. That's what I do.
You're going to end up, like you were mentioning, walks. You're going to end up walking more people. You're going to end up fighting off pitches at the plate, and that extends the length of those games. So like in our game with in the game with TJ, he walked me 8 times, which is, maybe you like adding on the walks, but at the same time, that's actually adding on time to the game. So that's why they end up getting so close together with a normal game length that I've noticed, at least. I mean, I'm sure there are situations where you do save more time than that, but you end up actually facing more batters and keeping at-bats alive more than you would otherwise.
Let me put it this way. I totally agree. It's not a meaningful way to shorten the game. And it is not something that is particularly useful in online play. And in ranked online play, it's not even an option. You can't do it. I don't think you can.
No.
I think it was glitched last night, and we could actually do it in ranked online.
I was unable to use quick counts in ranked online play when I was playing on PS3. Maybe I wasn't looking for it properly, but at any rate, I agree with you,
it was defaulted for us, and we were locked into the settings that we could choose when we played.
Okay. Well, I agree with you, Brian. This isn't the virtue in this is not. Yeah, this makes the game so much faster. I think that's kind of a false claim.
Yeah.
I think the virtue is more in the single player, where again, let me put it to you guys who are playing as hitters. How many walks do you have in your careers? It's not. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not something that is particularly fun, even if it's productive. Even if we know as baseball fans, a guy who walks, walks as good as a hit, the old adage, but also certainly with the advanced way we understand player production, it is really a good thing to walk when you don't get anything good to hit. Nobody walks. I don't walk people as pitcher. People don't walk as hitters. So if you're really looking for something that enforces a smooth reality, and you don't have the patience to be a realistic hitter, frankly, and a lot of people don't, then quick counts is a good way to just sort of cut to the chase. But Brian, I do see what you say. You sacrifice a lot of situational strategy. Less, to my favoring would be sacrificing, because hell, that's such a schizophrenic act for me. You're both calling for a bunt and a steal, which, I could not even describe to you what the commands are.
You got to hold the left trigger down, and then you let go when you want them to release, and then you press the triangle and you bunt.
I don't even.
That's one of the few things I can explain. I can't tell you how to base run, though.
Well, okay.
But you hold down?
I do see the point of just, frankly, straight steal. Especially if you've got a guy on the, if I'm playing with the Reds, and a Billy Hamilton, gets on base, I want him stealing on an 0-0-0-1 count. I want him stealing definitely on a 2-1 count when the guy hitting behind him is going to see fastball.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be available. How many times? 2-1 is kind of a rare count to see in quick count. So it's got a lot. It's got some refinement. But I don't think it's a waste. I'll side with TJ on I think it's a virtue, but I think it's a virtue for people who understand what it is and apply it to their offline experiences, in a meaningful way. As an online component, absolutely not. It's kind of pointless.
No. Well, the best thing about quick counts is that we can have this debate and that it's an option, and then you can use it or you cannot use it. That's and one of the things that is really, again, continuing to be most impressive to me about MLB The Show is that each of us can tailor the experience very much to how we want to play the game. And there's a lot to be said for that, really a lot to be said for that.
I think we all use different fielding controls.
We all use different fielding controls, different pitching controls. Yeah, absolutely.
It is absolutely the strength of this franchise.
Yep. All right. Let's talk online. TJ, you have been an online machine since you eventually got the game and got it running. I'm sure. Well, you may, or you and Bryan have certainly played a lot of online games. So, talk about your online experience overall. My experience has been that it has been functional. I'm not going to say good. I'm going to say there's been some hilarity, but there has also not been the dramatically poor experience we had at the launch of the PS3. So, how's your overall online experience been, TJ?
You are muted. Are you muted?
Yep.
There you go.
Dogs barking and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I thought I would give it good. You know, a little bit better than acceptable. I have run into some issues where, like I said, I will hit X to skip through a cutscene, and the ball will just be frozen there, and I'll be like, wait, what's going on? Like, I was a little terrified when I was playing it earlier in the day, and that happened, but thankfully having you guys on at night and we were on the Skype call, we could see that Rich was still watching a cutscene and I wasn't. Or we had a weird issue where I hit a ground ball to the second baseman. Rich's second baseman threw it one hop to the first baseman, who bobbled it, but on your screen he bobbled it. On my screen he threw it past him and the catcher picked it up. But then your first baseman threw the ball back to the pitcher, and then I watched the first baseman throw the ball back to the pitcher, which was kind of weird. But other than that, and there wasn't really lag in pitching or hitting. I didn't really notice that too much. We had some wonky things where the ball, or at least on my side, the ball looked like it warped from the left fielder to the second baseman. But you were on defense, and you said on your side it was completely fine. Which, as long as it's okay for the important thing that you're doing at the time, I think that's good. As long as it's not ridiculous on my side.
The thing with MLB The Show on PS4, and granted, it was only the first night, but...
And we only played exhibition games.
We only played exhibition games.
We're going to try online franchise or anything.
We're going to do an online franchise. We're going to test that out over the course of the next few weeks, set a small one up and see how that goes. While we're able to complete the games, and that's great, and we were actually able to have a decent experience, it also is not close to FIFA or Madden online on the PS4.
No, we questioned whether we would just voluntarily go on and play those games, I think, even at how they were running.
Right. I mean, it's not a good experience. Like, there's lag when you hit the ball. Like, you never, when you're playing online, do you see the swing and the animation and the ball connect the way that you do in an offline game. It's laggy. It's weird. There was a time last night when I was stealing second base, and when I was watching, my second baseman slid right into second base. The second baseman was standing 10 feet behind him. He caught the ball 10 feet behind him, like, yes, I stole the base. And then the guy was called out, and TJ, you saw the second baseman standing on second base, tagging my guy out.
Perfect play.
You know, there were...
Just like I drew it up.
I mean, there's a neighborhood play, and then there's... you know? So there's all sorts of these things. These are not high... It's not a high-quality online experience. So no matter what, I mean... There's still a long way to go. I mean, Bryan, you played a lot of online today, I believe. What was your experience?
So I think there are two different areas when we evaluate online. And that's how the just standard online games are, and then how online franchise is. And so the standard online games, like you said, that has to be, I think, a little encouraging that we at least completed games, because we couldn't do that on the PS3.
Yes.
So
definitely.
That is, yeah, especially with the server issues that were slowing everything down. That we completed games that honestly surprised me, which is kind of scary that it would take that. But but like we said, I'm not sure if that's an experience you want to actively play very often. So when I come to when I come to evaluating like an online franchise, so the first thing is user versus user games, and so we have to consider that, and then the second is user versus CPU. And on PS3 it was basically busted in that it often didn't record the results. It would say it couldn't process, and so you've just thrown away an hour of whatever you just did because the server didn't process the game, and it does nothing to help you with it. It just says sorry, it didn't process. It's like it never existed. And so all this server slowdown has made starting an online franchise really almost impossible at this point still, because everything you do in the online franchise connects to the server. So just changing pages in the menu takes like a minute. It's not worth even bothering with quite yet. So that's something I'll have to look at probably this weekend instead. So I mean, again, the show is not a game you're going to buy. Unfortunately, it's not a game yet you're going to buy if all you care about or what you mostly care about is online. But hey, if we can get some games done and they're relatively decent, that's actually a big step forward. So we just have to monitor how it goes over the next few days and beyond that, because there really isn't a history with SCEA of improving online post-release. MLB 13 was pretty decent, which is why it was so disappointing, the troubles we had on the PS3.
And if you were buying MLB to play online, you already had problems going into this.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, to expand on that, you know, Jason has a point. Excuse me, TJ has a point.
I look like a Jason. I get that all the time. It's weird.
Hell, no, TJ. Tell me your middle name is Jason, for Christ's sake.
No, William, obviously.
Well, okay. No, TJ has a point in that, you know, you're kind of a sociopath if you're playing baseball online in the first place. But no, I mean, this is something that's advertised on the back of the box as.
Yes.
Oh, an online franchise, yeah, significant new feature.
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
and it's a complete waste. And you know, I think the biggest tragedy is what Bryan described. Excuse me, Bryan. Did I mean?
Did we lose him?
Bryan with IA.
Call you Fed? Yeah, right. I don't know how to pronounce it that way.
Yeah.
It's when you're playing even a CPU game in an online franchise and that doesn't process.
Well,
And
even
that-
just knowing it might not process.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
discouraging.
yeah, I would just put down the controller and never even try with it. So the whole we rewrote the net code, as I've said before, is the check is in the mail claim of any sports video game other than EA Sports. And it's funny, I get into conversations with people on Twitter and they're like, well, do you use an Ethernet connection for your internet down to your PS3 or your PS4? And I'm like, no, because I don't need one when I play Madden. I don't need one, when I play FIFA, the few times that I play FIFA. I don't need one when I play any EA Sports game, but for some reason I need that when I play, a Sony game or a 2K Sports game. This is nonsense. Wi-Fi is a reasonable consumer expectation.
There's
Don't
always
blame it
those.
on my hardware, damn it.
There's always those excuses. I remember back in the days when like 7-8 years ago, and you'd have online problems, and people would say, are you playing someone on the East Coast? Like,
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Are you playing after 10 p.m.? We still
This
get
guy's-
that kind of stuff.
That's how I play.
Yeah.
All those rules.
That's the kind of crap that you get from your ISP in 2002
Yeah.
when complaining about your signal strength, whatever's coming out of the phone cable. I'm not going to cotton to that at all. Anyway, this is something where it's not a viable online game by any stretch. I mean, I couldn't even get in last night to ranked online play, unranked online play. Couldn't create an online dynasty franchise. This is last night. Could not upload nor download my cloud safe file. This is past 7 p.m. East Coast time. And if I'm a regular consumer, I'm furious, especially about the cloud safe thing, because Christ Almighty, even if I don't even expect to play online, but I know that I can pull. I bought my PS3 version because I have both consoles, and I wanted to get started on my Road to the Show, or I wanted to get started on my franchise, and when MLB The Show came out on PS4, I could bring it forward to my new console, and let's say you bought the digital version, which wasn't even available for 18 hours, and then how long did it take to download it after that? And then two, their servers are so jacked up you can't even pull your cloud save down. I mean, this is just bad. This is throwing away a lot of the hard work that people at Sony and San Diego are doing, for this game. And maybe some of it is attributable, or the blame should fall on people at San Diego. I have no idea. But the idea, and we talked about this last week on the podcast, that the PS4 with its increased computing power could add something to, or smooth out the online experience, make it less laggy, does not sound like that is happening at all whatsoever. This is not something where there's any meaningful benefit online by having better hardware, and that's just sad.
Yeah, I think it's clear that the PS4 as a machine can handle online play very well. And I'm not just talking Madden Online, where we've had a great experience, relatively speaking, or FIFA, where I've had a great experience. NBA 2K was a disaster at the start, but has been fine for a while once they got it ironed out, and that clearly looked to be related to code on the 2K side. And now MLB The Show, it seems to be the code of MLB The Show as opposed to the PlayStation Network. So, I mean, if the hardware can clearly demonstrate it can support online 11 versus 11 soccer and 11 versus 11 NFL football, it can clearly handle 9-on-9 baseball or 5-on-5 basketball. So without digging into it, it certainly seems like these are specific title-related issues with online versus any sort of infrastructure or architecture. All right, you brought it up. Owen, I think it's now time for TJ to describe his digital download sojourn on launch day. So TJ Lauerman planned and executed eventually a launch-tacular event hosted on his website. TJ, describe to us the
greatness that awaited
when you went to get MLB The Show.
Well, obviously, at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, as promised, I was there to go on, download my my digital pre-order copy. Got to the thing, and it said nothing. It said, "Hey, you purchased it, but that's cool. That we don't have a download button for you yet. Don't worry about it." So I was like, "Okay, interesting. We'll let this go for a little bit." So I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning waiting for this to happen. Still nothing. I figured, you know what? Let me just go to sleep. I have it on standby, so when the download comes up, since I bought it, I figure it'll probably download it in the background. So that should be cool. I'll wake up. We'll start streaming at 10 o'clock. It'll be great. Wake up, drive my wife to the bus stop, because good husband, you know me. Hop on around 7:30. Go in. Still no download button. Am I missing something? Maybe. Let me go click around Twitter. No, nobody can download it still. Interesting. So around like 9:30, I was like, let's just start streaming. Or I hinted at the possibility of streaming MLB 2K13, and oddly enough,
That's good.
got a couple tweets asking where people could get updated rosters for that game. So I sent them over to the Operation Sports forums. Hopefully they found something there.
Well done.
So we're streaming for a little bit, and I think 10:30, I'm seeing this guy at Pastapadre tweeting. First off, he's on the West Coast. I don't know what he's doing awake.
Oh, I don't know what I was doing awake.
So I had the stream up, and I had some people in there, and I was like, or they said you should get Pastapadre in here. I was like, I know this guy. Let me send him a tweet. So Bryan and Rich came on. We talked for about 40 minutes about the problems, whose fault it was, what we were really angry at. Because one of the things ended up being we weren't really angry that the digital download wasn't there. Like, obviously, we were very frustrated that it wasn't. We were more angry that we were getting zero communication out of Sony. There was a couple things on an Operation Sports story that Sony was commenting on, saying that they were working on it, saying that they didn't upload a file fast enough to Sony, which why would you wait till the night of to upload the file? That seems a little ludicrous. Then Bryan had to go to sleep. Rich had some work to do. I had taken off the day, man of the people. I wanted to be there streaming that game as early as possible so everybody could see it. Around 11:30, I get another couple of people calling on Skype, and I'm like, what am I going to do here? Who knows how long this is going to take? People were talking to the Sony chat representatives and hearing, it'll come out later in the afternoon when we do their update. It's like, I took the day off. I'm not going to waste my whole day sitting here just staring at a chat room of people when we're all just bitching. So, of course, I get two people on the Skype call, and I was like, can you guys just make sure everybody's not rowdy or anything crazy? So I drive out, go to Target. I got myself the retail copy of the game. There's only two left. I was actually pretty surprised. And the guy saw me in my That Sports Gamer shirt and Diamondbacks hat and was like, you want MLB The Show, don't you? Yes, I do. So, popped it in when I got home. Worked beautifully. It was great. Then 2 hours later, I went and I downloaded it. Here's the trick: if you have the retail version, for all you people out there with so much money that you can just blow on buying the retail version while you're waiting for the digital version.
In other words, your name is TJ Lauerman.
You have to delete your save, like your install, before you can download the digital version. That took me about a half hour to figure out. And after it initially installed for about 45 minutes off the disc version, I think it took maybe 2.5, 3 hours for the digital version to fully download and install. It looked like there was a 5 gig download to start, then you could start the game, and then it would keep doing its whole downloady thing in the background. And that literally took from 6 p.m. to almost 8:30 p.m. That was a little ridiculous.
So, wow. Let's talk about let's talk about this install thing. I don't like it at all. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've installed a game. Like, I obviously installed a bunch of games on launch day. I've installed a couple games since then. But this is the first disc-based game that I've installed for, I don't know, a month or two. So maybe I've just forgotten. But good Lord, this game took a long time to install, and I have the physical disc. I mean, gosh, is this really what we have? Is this what we have now? Is this just the way it is, Bryan?
This is what we discussed a little bit last night on the stream. Was it's one thing to install games on like your Xbox 360 where they maxed out at 7 gigs. The show is 47 gigs. So the process is so much longer drawn out, and it's frustrating because they'll give you a little percentage, and it was different for like every team. Yeah. So you theoretically would be able to play exhibition mode in the meantime, but like the only options I had were like Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals, Dodgers, and I'm like, I don't want to play with any of these teams.
You know what the good time killer was? You could do a fantasy draft.
Oh, really?
Franchise. Okay. So I went and did that, and that's what took up the whole time from the disc-based install.
Interesting. Yeah, see, this is stuff we don't know. And then you can have someone like Rich who switches off his off the application, and loses all his progress.
Yeah, I did the review for Sports Friends for Games Radar, and my son loves Sports Friends, and so right before his bedtime, he's like, "Dad, can we play Sports Friends for a few minutes?" I'm like, "Sure." It's great. So my install was at like 48%. I hit the PlayStation button, switched over to Sports Friends. We played for 10 minutes. I put it in bed. I come back in. I go back to the show expecting it to be at like 70, 80%, and it's like, all right, ready to install. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And it took another hour and 15 minutes. Owen, good. What the heck?
I had a different installation experience, which was I put it in there, I pressed start or whatever the hell it's supposed to do, and
options.
Then options. Yeah. I don't know, the big touchpad button.
Yeah.
Realized this thing was going to install, and just came upstairs and like made dinner. I don't. There is so much that is just the emperor's new clothes with the next generation experience, and this installation crap is among it. That I don't know what kind of claim the PlayStation 4 made relative to Xbox One, which is you can play your game within I don't know what percentage of installing it. It's almost meaningless when you're talking about, in the case of Xbox One, downloading, what was it, an 8 gigabyte update for something like Dead Rising 3.
I think it was 13, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah.
And TJ's experience also just puts the lie to the idea that we should be buying our games online.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I don't really give a damn that this is available online when, one, it costs so much on my hard drive, in my hard drive space,
right,
to dedicate, to that title. Two, it's going to take a shitload of time to download it if I'm not going to get throttled by Time Warner for doing so. Three, is it even going to be available? And then four, how long is it going to take to install it as I'm downloading it? This is nonsense, and they really got to get their act together, and I don't think they will, because, hell, you look at the public policy around the internet in the United States, and it's not like we're going in the direction of free and unfettered access anytime soon. It wouldn't surprise me if the lobbyists for GameStop were the ones behind the defeat of net neutrality so recently, at the FCC. It's just PR that these features exist, and nobody should trust them.
So we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Overall, some concerns or issues that you have other than the things that we've talked about. We talked about happy surprises, some of the things that you like. TJ Lauerman, any concerns, any things that you see are, I don't know if you want to call them glaring weaknesses, although you can, or just things that really sort of have you either concerned or things you definitely want to see addressed in either a patch or certainly by next year's game?
I definitely like to see the quick counts tweaked a little bit more, so to get a little more variety in the counts. I know they said it was supposed to kind of be based on the pitcher's stats, and if he strikes out guys a lot, they'll have more two-strike counts against him, stuff like that, or even just the option to some sort of way to allow bunting or to start with a 0-0 count, like on a per-batter basis, would be kind of nice. And also, they got to fix these loading screens, like Diamond Dynasty. This whole episode, I redeemed some stubs, and I bought 2 packs in Diamond Dynasty.
I don't even know what that means.
It's been 40 minutes, and that's the amount that I've accomplished. Mainly because I hit a button and I just kind of wait. You buy the pack and it's like, okay, well, let's go do another segment, and then the pack opened. That's all server stuff, so I assume that's what's going on right now. Hopefully they can fix it with servers or less people playing, which might help, which would be a bad thing, but...
I mean, it kind of reminds me of NHL when GM Connected first came out a couple of years ago, the painful time it took to move from screen to screen. Yeah. GM Connected was so good, I dealt with it, but it was really hard to deal with. And something like Diamond Dynasty, where I'm not really lured in that direction, if that's the way that it's going to go, you can guarantee I'll never get there. Oh, good. Your thoughts, concerns, things you want to see updated and such.
Here's the thing that I'm kind of pissed off about the most. I mean, the sole selling point for the Show 14 on PS4 is, just this fetishization of minute detail. Look at the texture on the uniforms. Look at what Fenway Park looks like on its scoreboard or from the third base grandstand, all this other crap. And these are things that you're never going to see really in any regular mode of play, certainly not in any regular broadcast angle. So, great, fine, you've done that. Next generation graphics apparently does not accommodate sleeveless jerseys. We still see the same crap where the sleeveless jersey is a regular jersey with the sleeves the color of what the undershirt is supposed to be, and then if you've got an undershirt option in your player preferences, you're in essence wearing 2 undershirts. Why is it so complicated? Why, this is the next goddamn generation of video game console. Why don't the graphics support that? Why is it, that we still have the straps on a catcher's chest protector 4 inches off of his back, casting shadows across his numeral? I thought this was the next console generation of graphics. All this is higher poly count, and that's it. So, it's really kind of dispiriting to behold that and to really pull back odds this curtain and realize that's all this is. That's the main value proposition here. Because the animations, with the exception of some things like some ball or bat boys, I saw a ball boy barehand a foul tip off the screen, and I thought that was kind of novel. But how much value does that add? Really, you're still seeing batters after you throw one too far inside, step back and go, whoa, and then look at you like that, and then clap their hands twice. It's the same animations, it's the same game, just in a higher poly count, and that's not going to feed the bulldog. And this is why I'm so down on the idea of next generation sports gaming. I know that a lot of the leap that we perceived and enjoyed the last time we had a console generation leap, 2006, 2005, 2006, is because we also had the advent of high definition televisions as affordable and mainstream, and that added a lot to the experience. I get that, but I mean, it's like a Whopper without the burger in the bun. You got nothing. I'm not seeing it. I'm just seeing people shaving hundredths of a second off of the 100-meter world record, and that's great. It's still better, but it is not meaningfully better to me.
You know, it's so funny too because Owen, I think you and I, while we agree on a lot of stuff, I'm in a completely different camp than you on this. I've had more fun playing next gen FIFA, Madden, NBA 2K, and now the show than I've had playing any of those titles, with the exception of NBA 2K. I mean, that remains just a game that I have played an insane amount in last generation and this generation. By the time we got to the end of the last generation, Madden, I was completely done. You know, FIFA was good, but it had grown stale. I thought the next gen, the launch versions of both of those games was great. After NBA 2K14 got over its very bad issues, and again, granted, I play one mode, I play my player, but I play it every day. I continue to be a junkie on it. I'm literally on the other side. Not that it's like this massive leap forward, but just the overall packages to me just feel so much smoother and better put together than anything I've played in the last generation.
I think there is difference. I mean, plainly with Madden, and we've discussed this, there is improved gameplay difference, and it is almost entirely attributable to the better hardware, you know, controlling for blocking. I mean, we've discussed that, and that's recognizable. And in NBA 2K14 it had features on its next-gen offerings that were not available on the previous generation, and that, too, is recognizable. So most of my criticism is in the show, which, to its credit, is feature complete. We don't have the kind of thing that we saw with, like, you know, Madden back in 2006 on the Xbox, which is, you know, we've got fake announcers for some damned reason. You know, the features aren't all there, so it's fine. That's great, but you know, the idea that this is a distinctly different game, no, not at all, not at all.
Yep. No, and I completely
as lifeless as it ever been.
No, I agree, and it's just interesting where, you know, you put the same games in front of different people, the different reactions you get. I mean, all you have to do is go to the Operation Sports forums or go to Bryan Wiedey's, you know, comments on his articles. It's fascinating how we're all, so many of us are in such different places with all these games. Bryan Wiedey, any, you know, sort of issues, concerns, things that are bothering you about the show that we haven't talked about, things you want to see addressed in either a patch or, you know, as the show franchise moves forward this generation?
Well, besides the obvious, you know, online and loading times, I have a handful. I was just thinking about the first, and Owen's talking about how they're enhancing the graphics to kind of a ridiculous degree and talking about blades of grass and stuff. But they still don't have really any good collision detection. You still have guys who will slide through each other and walk through each other. So I think that should be more of a concern. Yeah, you have things like the new rules they didn't institute this year with the manager challenges. You have retractable roofs. I was just talking about this on the chat today. Playing in Safeco would be a completely different feel if the roof was closed.
I can, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I'm not the challenges to me, that's an extra 3 more minutes I don't want to spend in the game, but that's...
Oh, man.
You know, it is part of the game, so
I can understand that. And then, you know, I was a little disappointed they took the towels out of postseason mode. I'm not like stressing these as huge things, but the other you know, I think as a whole, and I think we all probably agree with this, is that they need to find a better way to inform people and make it easier to locate and understand and learn all the options that are available, because it's great that they have all these options, but not even, you know, we don't understand all of them. We don't know how they all work. We don't know where to find them all. We have to spend time to find them all.
We have to teach each other how to find them live on Skype and on streams. That's how we figure a lot
10
of
minutes
stuff
to
out.
invite someone to a game, which was
I mean,
I think it actually changed overnight too.
Did it? It's like, did you send me an invite for the online game? Like, okay, how do I pull it up? Where do we go to set up a game? And again, this is us, and we play this game every year, and I feel for the people who pick it up for the first time, because it's just got to be overwhelming. And I can understand why there's no uptake in sports games when they're so overwhelming like that.
Yeah, you know, it's a great point. You bring up the menus and getting the stuff. You know, our friend Gus Ramsey, who I'm actually going to be interviewing for the audio show, of which this will be a part of, coming out on Friday, sent me a couple emails today. He's like, and this is guy Gus Ramsey. His game of the year the last 2 years has been MLB The Show, and he's like, how do I do this, and where can I find that? Right. So again, it just illustrates again there is so much happening in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell, you wouldn't believe how many questions I've gotten in email and Twitter and stuff saying, how do I get rid of the black bars? And I'm like, there's a way to do that, but I don't remember. And I have to do that myself, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just even simple stuff like that you would think would be taken care of for you.
And ultimately, where I'm landing on this game is, and I'm in a good place with MLB The Show, and again, it comes down to how I play it. I can finally play the game the way that I want to, and I didn't even know this is the way that I wanted to. I can deal with the long loading times. I can deal with the fact that the menus for online are a mess because now I know how to do it. I can deal with the uncanny valley because I have found a way for me to play this game. And when I play the game the way I like to play it, player lock through the first 7 innings, play the rest of the game as the full team for the last 2 or 3 innings, I can play a game. I feel like I've still had a full game experience. When I'm actually hitting and throwing and fielding now, I'm enjoying it. It's overall a good experience. And I feel like they are in a good position to move forward this generation, as opposed to where I thought that they were going to be once we learned that the PS4 version was going to be coming out a month later. Like, there's clearly a lot of work that needs to be done moving forward, but I have a feeling that this came in. I have a feeling this game came in hot, and that it ultimately came together late, and it probably could have been a lot worse of a situation. I think now that we're past the digital delivery issues, I think now that we're past sort of the challenges that almost every game seems to have at launch, I feel like in a lot of ways the majority of people are going to be able to experience the show on the PS4 in a way that they will enjoy. Now, we didn't really get to Diamond Dynasty. TJ, you're a big Ultimate Team Diamond Dynasty guy. You know, if you're big into that right now, it seems like that's not working well. Again, we've talked about if you're big into online, if that's the main way you want to play the game, this is not the game for you. I have a feeling that those are the minority groups of people who will be playing that game. So for me, Rich Grisham, I can see myself playing MLB The Show for a while for fun, which I have not really done past a month or so. And when I say play it, I'm playing it in a new way. I'm not playing Road to the Show, right? I'm done with Road to the Show. I've done it 1,000 times. I'm now playing a season in a franchise. So I'm enjoying that. And that's how I'm going to play this game. So I can see myself playing the PS4 version of Road to the Show for a while. Owen, good. Are you going to keep playing? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep playing the show. Owen, you're screwing me over there. Owen, are you going to keep playing MLB 14 the show moving forward for fun, as just a video game, not for work, not for anything, just for fun moving forward?
Yeah, and I've got to apologize because private chat in a Google Hangout is like waving a sign during a foul shot.
As soon as I said that, I figured that might not have been the right term.
Yeah. I will continue to play, I think. I really, and I'm going to Los Angeles next week, and then I'm going to go back again in June. And that's 12 hours of my life I'm not getting back in an airport. Hell yeah, I'm going to use that to play the show on Vita. And I think for those who have the option, that's a powerful adjunct to this series. And I think I will continue to play it. It's very easy to get sucked in. It is a popcorn-like experience, not necessarily a full game, or if you're in a full game mode, where you're playing all 9 guys on the field. And this is, again, it's why I've said that player lock is so brilliant, which allows you to road to the show eyes what you're doing in your franchise. And if you've got time for 4 at-bats, you can still have some kind of a meaningful experience instead of batch simulating out the whole thing. I did stray from the show after my review. I went back and played some Skyrim, of all things. But that was mostly because I knew I was waiting on the PS4 version to come through. and you know, because I would have to review it, and we're updating our review on Polygon. It'll be up shortly. I do think I'll come back to it because this is going to sound strange, but I know that we're not getting portable saves in a truly meaningful way until, like, you know, next year when we see, you know, what we played on MLB 14 is now playable on MLB 15. But what I played on MLB 14 on the PS3, I've played on MLB 14 on my Vita, and I have played now on MLB 14 on my PlayStation 4, and it does feel like a persistent experience to me now, and I really am invested. It's like, wow, I signed that 4-year contract, and yeah, every one of those years was basically $10,000 over the league minimum, and I had to do it because I had no leverage. But damn it, I'm gonna see that out. And that was not, you know, in years past, I would slog it out for a year and a half in the minors, make the major leagues, go to spring training the next year, and be like, man, I am done with this. And I think with your franchise, it is something that is, you know, I'm playing as the Cleveland Indians. I haven't put as much work into that as I have in a Road to the Show, just because I don't have anybody who has a slurve like my Road to the Show player, which, Christ almighty, that thing, you should just call it the Thing, because that's how it behaves. But anyway, it is, I will continue to play this and play it a lot, and I think it's because Sony has been able to find ways. It may not be the perfect way. They may need refinement. As TJ has suggested, they've got to do something to make quick counts a little more situationally responsive. But they have found ways to make this a little more popcorn. You know, you look at NBA 2K, which in my career has play next significant game. You know, and that's a season that's half as long as Major League Baseball, but that is, you know, you're playing December games in NBA. That is a tough slog. And so they've found a way to make this a little bit more manageable and to get you to what you really want to do, which is, of course, play the playoffs, and which everybody should be doing right now and having a lot of good fun with. And I think Sony has made an earnest effort in that direction. And yes, they're holding my attention, and I'm happy to continue to go back to it, because I've always been just mesmerized by the idea that this is a basically repetitive game. And when you break it down to the tasks that you really enjoy or are good at, in my case, pitching, I mean, there is very little gameplay that goes on. You're moving a cursor around, you're finding a spot in the strike zone, you're pressing a button at a certain point when the pulse is the diameter that you think it should be at, and that's it. But it's still a compelling experience because of what they've built up around it. And if they next year come back and do things like actually, you know, this is why I'm glad NHL, as we saw this week, sacked up and decided that its presentation, that upgrading that was a definite next generation feature upgrade. I mean, that's great. That's good for that franchise. I hope it shows leadership to the others, because there are a lot of franchises that need it. NBA 2K is not one. 2K Sports definitely best in class presentation, but Madden and atop that list is Joe.
Oh, and do you attribute that though to the year they took off to work on next gen? I mean, would the show be able to make that switch if they had a year off, as opposed to having to produce this next gen game and then now they have another short development cycle?
I'm not sure I follow what you mean by a year to take off.
Well, NHL didn't release on next gen this last.
Well, yeah, you know, yes, true. And EA Sports also has, I'm sure, a ton more money than San Diego. But that doesn't excuse San Diego of its obligations.
Right.
And it just...
Well, people have been calling for commentary changes for like 5 years now. They've tweaked. Yeah.
They've tweaked, or they've gotten rid of Rex Hudler, they've gotten rid of Dave Campbell, and they've brought in, you know, again, to get to what NHL was talking about. You know, Sean Ramjak Singh said, you know, you get guys together and they record lines and they sound like they're impersonating themselves. That's a criticism I've made for years, and that's exactly what goes on in the show, and that's something NHL is combating, and I think that that's something, again, that shows leadership and other franchises should follow.
My last 2 reviews for NHL, I've been begging for Doc Emmerich, so clearly they read those. So thanks, Sean. Appreciate that. Well done, sir. TJ Lauerman, you're going to keep playing the show?
Yeah, Rich, I'm going to play this so much you won't even believe. Maybe hundreds of thousands of hours. I may never sleep again. But yeah, I'll definitely.
I think you've been on up for too long or something.
Yeah, I love baseball. This is my favorite game of every year, even if I get extremely upset with the lack of communication from the developers and the game coming out digitally 14 hours late. I'm still going to play hundreds upon hundreds of hours of this game, so there's no stopping me now that I have it. And now that I have 2 copies, I'm unstoppable. I need another PlayStation now.
Bryan Wiedey, you going to keep playing the show?
Yeah, I would anticipate that unless the loading times really start to wear on me. Like Rich, if you're in a franchise, and maybe you have been playing enough that you don't think it's going to be an issue for you, but and you're doing player lock and you're getting through games in 10 minutes or something.
It ain't 10 minutes. Not the way I do it. It's more like 20 minutes, 25. But again, that's I think even that length is why I feel like I've still had a complete experience. Like if I just play 4 at bats and the game's over, I don't feel like I got the experience. When I get 3 at bats and then all of a sudden I'm the whole team for 2 or 3 innings, batting and pitching, I feel like I actually had a meaningful impact.
Well, yeah, and the point I was going to make though is that the shorter their experience you play in game, the more those loading times impact you. So if you're en road to the show as a closer like me, and you're bouncing in and out of games after 1 out in some cases, or even 3 outs can go quick, or if you look at the community challenges, which I thought were pretty cool. On the PS3, but they take a minute and a half to load each one on the PS4, and you literally might spend 30 seconds playing one of those challenges. You're spending more time loading in and then loading out than actually playing them. So, I mean, I don't know how much that's going to wear on me. Like right now, it's the first day, it's the second day, it's you put up with it, but in 3 weeks that may change. But otherwise, I mean, there are things I would do with the show, I wanted to do with the show that I didn't feel motivated enough on the PS3 to do. And now I want to do it on the PS4, and we have this connected, kind of experience. Everybody, not everybody, obviously, but the people that I connect with online and on my friends list and stuff that are doing those same things, streaming and all that. I mean, that wraps you up in it even more. So yeah, I mean, I would think I'm going to be playing this for a while. UFC might affect that, but we'll see. That's still a month away or whatever.
May I ask what other people's loading time experiences have been? I saw on PS3, I checked loading times for Exhibition, Franchise, Road to the Show, and they clocked in between 21 and 24 seconds.
Yep.
And on PlayStation 4, Exhibition was like 35 seconds, Franchise was like 58, and Road to the Show was like 51. Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So actually, I tested all those, and I put up an article like a few hours ago about that. And what it came out with was, in my tests, were boot to the menu on the PS3 was 57 seconds, so that's still pretty long. PS4 was 1:21, so that's only happens one time though. I think you can generally put up with that. Exhibition game PS3 was 24 seconds. PS4 was 1:17, which is absurd. Road to the Show was 29 seconds PS3, 45 seconds PS4. And the community challenges, 1:22 on the PS4, 30 seconds on the PS3.
Well, the community challenges with their online component, that's probably...
that could be. It could be, but I mean, I'm testing them both today, and as far as I could tell, all that server stuff was slowing down stuff on the PS3 too. So it was affecting that, but the actual loading, not because the community challenges, draws the challenges in, but what you're playing is offline still. It's just drawing in those individual challenges, getting into the room that has them. Otherwise, it's offline. But yeah, I mean, those are really tough when you start adding them up. It's not just one time. If you're sitting there at 1:30 waiting, it's however many games you're going to be loading into and then out of is still a significant load time too.
All right, gentlemen. I think this has been a great initial impression segment. I appreciate your time a lot. As I mentioned, this is one of many things that we have going on with the Press Row podcast and the Press Row community. Owen Good, I want to thank you very much. Owen Good from Polygon, much appreciated for coming on. Bryan Wiedey, as always, thank you, sir. TJ Lauerman, thank you as always for coming on as well. I mean, you guys spend a lot of time. Dedicate a lot of time to doing this for a living, so I appreciate the extra time in doing this. And as I mentioned, this Friday we have a press row podcast coming out, the audio podcast on iTunes. We'll have some segments of this. We'll have a segment of an interview with Gus Ramsey. We'll have a segment actually also talking with the Madden team about their special Madden Ultimate Team plans for the NFL Draft. So that's going to be kind of a cool show. And then next week we'll have the official sort of full-length Press Row podcast review roundtable where we've had several more days to spend with the game, and we'll have our normal or most of our normal cast and crew along with a special guest joining us for that. So lots more to talk about, lots more to have fun with. And again, just thank you to everybody who's watching, everybody who's listening, and thank you again to Owen, to Bryan, to TJ. I'm Rich Grisham. We'll talk with you again real soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.